This is Audible.
Audible Inc. presents Bang. Written by E.K. Blair. Narrated by Elena Wolfe. Preface. They say when you take revenge against another, you lose your innocence. But I'm not innocent. I haven't been for a very long time. My innocence was stolen from me. Taken was the life I was supposed to have, the soul I was born with, the ruby heart embedded in a life full of hopes and dreams. Gone. Vanished. I never even had a choice. I mourn that life, mourn the what-ifs. But I'm done. I'm ready to take back what was always meant to be mine. Vengeance is what I seek, to reclaim what was viciously ripped from me. So now I plot. Now I take control. Now I don my crown of hatred. Chapter 1. Present. Honey, are you almost ready? My husband's voice calls from the other room. I look at my reflection in the mirror as I slide in my pearl earring, whispering to myself, yes. Straightening my posture and smoothing the slick fabric of my dress, I run my fingers through my long, red hair, a blanket of carmine, loose waves falling over my bare shoulders, the coolness of the midnight blue silk that clings to the slight curves of my small frame, the stoic, good wife, my husband, the beacon of my admiration, or so it seems. Stunning. My eyes shift in the mirror to Bennett as he strolls into my closet and towards the island dresser where I stand. He drags my hair to the side, exposing my neck for his lips to land. I hum at his touch before turning in his arms to adjust his black bow tie. His eyes are pinned on me as I focus on his neck, and when I flick my attention up, he gives me a soft smile. I return it. He's striking with his strong bone structure, square jaw, and chestnut hair with the faint flecks of silver. A sign of his 34 years and his influential status. A mogul. Owner of the world's largest steel company. He is power, and I the recipient. Baldwin is ready with the car, he says before kissing my forehead. I grab my purse and Bennett helps me with my coat before we take the elevator down. As we walk through the lobby of the Legacy, my home for the past 3 years, Bennett keeps his hand on the crest of my back, guiding me out into the night's bite of winter. Mr. Vanderwall, Baldwin, our driver and good friend to my husband for years, greets with a nod before turning his attention to me. Mrs. Good evening, I say as I slip my hand in his, and he helps me into the back seat of the Land Rover. Bennett slides in after me and takes my hand in his lap when Baldwin shuts the door and then hops in the front seat. Metamorphosis by Glass, Bennett's favorite, swallows the silence and fills the car. Lifting my free hand up, I place it on the ice-cold window, feeling the dampness and chill as it seeps into my skin. I love the snow, I murmur, more to myself than to my husband, but he responds anyway. You say that every winter. Turning to look at him and then down at our linked hands, I release a soft hum before he shifts and says, So Richard said he stopped by this hotel the other day and mentioned that it would be a good location to hold our New Year's Eve party this year. What's the name? Lotus. Interesting, I note before asking. This is McKinnon's new hotel, right? His son's, actually. I've yet to meet him. Giving my hand a light squeeze, he questions, What's that look for? McKinnon can be, well, an ass. I smile and agree. Yes, I just never knew he had any children, that's all. Driving through the Saturday evening traffic in the loop of Chicago, we finally pull up to the newly built boutique hotel that will cater to the city's elite. We tend to find ourselves at a monotonous number of events such as this. With Bennett's status, not only in this city, but worldwide. His presence is of an accord that is sought after for publicity and other reasons. But Bennett has found himself in several business dealings with Callum McKinnon over the years, so tonight's event wasn't one that we could skip out on. When Baldwin opens the door and helps me down, I right myself and adjust my long dress before being led through the glass doors and inside the lobby of Lotus. While Bennett leaves my side to check our coats, I take in the decorum of guests and bite the inside of my cheek. I know I'm with the wealthiest man here, but my nerves tend to stain my gut, wondering if these people can see right through me. I'm greeted with a glass of champagne and the eyes of a few women that serve on some of the charity boards that I sit on. "You ready, honey?" My husband wraps his arm around my hip and guides us over to the first of many interactions we will have. I gloss on my smile, raise my chin, and play the part I have played since I met Bennett. He's a loving husband, always has been, firm in his business but so very gentle with me, as if I'm breakable. Maybe I used to be, but not anymore. I'm as strong as they come. Weakness derives from the soul. Most everyone has one, which gives a woman like me leverage. Leverage to play people to my liking, and so I do. "Nina!" I hear my name being drawn out by one of my friends. "Jacqueline, don't you look lovely?" I say as she leans in to kiss my cheek. "Well, I can't even compete with you. Gorgeous as always," she says before turning her attention to Bennett and blushing as she says hello. I'm sure she just soaked her panties as well. She's a desperate flirt. Her husband is a sorry excuse for a man. But that husband is a business partner with Bennett, so I put up with his misogynistic bullshit and feel sorry for the twit that he married. She's been trying to get into my husband's pants since I first met her. I've never said a word because desperation is not something that Bennett is attracted to. While Jacqueline flirts with my husband, I scan the room. Everyone dressed in their finest, drinking and socializing. I turn away from the mindless people and take in the sleek, modern design of the hotel. A minimalistic fitting, but clearly bathed in money. As I float my gaze around the room, I land on a pair of eyes staring at me. Eyes that catch my interest. Standing in a small group, not paying attention to a single person around him, a man, a startlingly attractive man, is watching me. Even as I look at him from across the room, he doesn't divert his lock on me. He merely cocks a small grin before taking a sip out of his highball. When a slender blonde strokes his arm, the contact is lost. Impeccably dressed in a bespoke suit, he has a slightly uncaring look about him. His hair is styled loosely, as if he just ran his hands through the thick locks and said fuck it. And his defined jaw is covered in day-old stubble. But that suit... Yeah, that suit is clearly covering a body that is well maintained. The lines and cuts hug his form, accentuating broad shoulders that V down to slender hips. "Honey?" Pulled away from my lingering eye, I turn to my husband's curious look and notice that Jacqueline is no longer by his side. "What's got your attention?" he asks. "Oh, I'm just taking everything in. This place is amazing, huh?" "I was asking about the party, but I guess you were zoned out, so what do you think?" "Yes, I agree. This would be a great venue and a nice change of scenery," I tell him, and when I do, I see Fuck It Guy approaching. He has an ease with his stride, and the other women in the room see it too. "You must be Bennett," he says in a silky, rough Scottish brogue that's reminiscent of his father's accent as he reaches out his hand to my husband. "I'm Declan McKinnon. My father speaks very highly of you." "Good to finally meet you, Declan. I haven't seen Cal here tonight," Bennett says as he shakes Fuck It Guy's hand, who now has a name. "He isn't here. He had to fly to Miami to take care of some business. That old bastard never stops moving, does he? Bennett laughs, and Declan joins, shaking his head, saying, 60 years old and still barking orders to anyone who will listen. Hell, even to those who won't. When Declan looks over to me, my husband apologizes and says, Declan, this is my wife Nina. Taking my hand, he leans in and kisses my cheek before pulling back and complimenting, It's a pleasure. I couldn't help but take notice across the room earlier. Looking at Bennett, he adds, You're a lucky man. I tell her that every day. I wear my smile as a good wife should. I've been doing this for years, numb to the ridiculous accolades these men tend to throw around in their lame attempts at gentlemanly ways. I can see that Declan makes no attempts, though. His shoulders are loose. He's relaxed. This place is quite an accomplishment. Congratulations, Bennett tells him. Thank you. It only took a few years off my life, but, he says as he takes in the surroundings, she's exactly how I envisioned her, before bringing his eyes back to me. This guy is outright flirting, and I'm surprised when it slides past Bennett as he continues in conversation. I was just telling Nina that your hotel would provide a perfect backdrop for our year-end party that we throw for our friends. I butt in with a smirk, saying, It's a once-a-year event where my husband releases the reins, allowing me to create an event to accentuate his financial power, simply to remind everyone who's on top. A penis extender, if you will, and he's due for his annual visit. I tease with a tender femininity that has the boys laughing in amusement at my tart words. I laugh along with them as I shoot my husband a flirty wink. She's got a sweet mouth on her, Declan says. You have no clue, Bennett responds as he looks down at me with his grin. But despite what she says, she loves planning this yearly engagement, and I get a thrill out of watching her spend all of my hard-earned money. But we're in a bind because the venue we selected a few months back is now under renovation, and the space won't be ready in time. When does this event take place? It's a New Year's Eve ball, he answers. Sounds like that is doable, Declan says as he takes out a business card from inside his suit jacket, and instead of handing it to Bennett, he hands it to me, saying, Since it seems you're the woman I'll be answering to, here are my contact numbers. Taking the card from between his fingers, I watch as he turns and tells my husband, I'll be sure to oversee the planning, to ensure that Nina gets everything she requests. Looks like I'll be writing a big check this year, my husband jokes. Well, Declan, it was great to finally put a face to the name, but if you'll excuse us, I'd like to show off my wife on the dance floor. When Bennett leads us to the full dance floor and wraps me in his arms, I take the opportunity to peek over his shoulder to find Declan watching me intently. This guy makes no qualms about his interest, and a pang of elation thrums inside me as my husband slowly moves me with ease. We continue to spend the evening mingling and visiting with friends and business associates before we retire for the evening and head back to the Legacy. Stepping off the elevator and into the penthouse that Bennett owned when I first met him 4 years ago, we walk through the darkened living room. The only light is from the moon that's casting its glow behind the snow-filled clouds outside the floor-to-ceiling windows that span across the 2 walls. I enter the master suite behind Bennett, and as I slip off my heels, I look up to see that he has already undone his bow tie, and it hangs around the collar of his white tuxedo shirt, which he is now unbuttoning. His eyes are rapt as they move down my body. I stand there as he slowly approaches and then slides his hands along the length of my sides until he finds himself on his knees in front of me. He runs his hands up my legs through the opening of the slit in my dress, and as soon as his fingers hit my panties, I turn it off. The steel cage wraps around my heart, and before my stomach can turn, I shut down. Numb. Vacant. He drags my panties down my legs, and I step out of them before I feel the warmth of his tongue, when he slides it along the seam of my pussy. But I am able to keep myself from entertaining the slightest impulse of intimacy. I've been sleeping with my husband for years, but I refuse to allow the pleasure I lead him to believe I'm experiencing. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I hate him. He thinks, in this moment, that we're making love. His cock fills me slowly as I lie beneath him, arms laced around his neck, legs spread open wide, inviting him in deeper as he makes a meal out of my tits. He believes everything I want him to. He always has. But this is merely a game for me, a game he foolishly has fallen into. He never questions my love for him, and now my body writhes underneath his and moans in mock pleasure as he comes hard, jerking his hips into me, telling me how much he loves me, and I give his words right back. "God, Bennett, I love you so much," I pant. His head is nestled in the yoke of my neck as he tries to calm his breathing, and when he lifts up, I run my fingers through his hair and over his damp scalp as he looks into my eyes. "You're so stunning like this." "Like what?" I question softly. "Sated. Idiot." Chapter 2. Present. Rolling over in bed, I find myself alone. Nothing new. Bennett's aftershave still lingers in the air, and when I freshen up and walk out into the open-concept living room, I see him sitting at the bar in the kitchen. He reads a file while drinking his coffee. Tying the sash of my silk robe around my waist, I approach him from behind, wrapping my arms around his shoulders, giving him a kiss. "Good morning," he says with a grin. "Happy to see me." "You're up early," I respond as I note his three-piece suit. Setting the file down, he turns to pull me in between his legs. "I'm leaving for Dubai. Did you forget?" "Of course not. But you don't have to leave for another few hours," I tell him, and then drop my head, adding in mock sadness, "I wish you would stay." Kissing my lips, he draws away and strokes his fingers through my long hair, combing it back. "It's only for a few days. Plus, you'll be busy." "Busy?" "I need you to start getting everything lined up for the party. It's just over a month away, and announcements need to go out soon. Richard isn't going with me, so he'll be around this week if you need anything." Richard is Jacqueline's husband and Bennett's business partner. He has always rubbed me the wrong way, but I feign my liking for him merely for Bennett. He wears an ascot, for Christ's sakes. "Okay. Well, I'll do some work from here today, and then call the hotel to set up a meeting." As I walk over to fix a cup of hot tea, Bennett gets back to his work before he has to catch his flight. After a while, Baldwin takes his luggage down to the car while we say our goodbyes. "I'm gonna miss you," I murmur, to which he responds, "Honey, you always say that." Rubbing up against him, I cover his mouth with mine. "Because I always do." He smiles. I smile. "Call me as soon as you land so that I know you're okay." "I love you." I follow him to the elevator and give him one last kiss before he leaves, and then make my way to the study to work on the laptop. Getting myself comfortable, I open the lid and type Declan McKinnon into the search engine. Link after link floods the screen. I click on one and read, Declan Alexander McKinnon. Born in Edinburgh, Scotland. Age 31. Son of Callum McKinnon and the late Lillian McKinnon. MBA studies at the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I continue to read about his various academic and business accomplishments and recognitions. I've met his father on several occasions and know that the family name is a well-respected one, so I can imagine the pressure on him to keep it as such. Clicking over to the image search, hundreds of pictures of him grace the screen with a variety of women attached to his arm. Clearly, he enjoys his bachelor status, but it seems he is new to the Chicago area. Without pondering on him too much, I close the internet down and open Bennett's address book to begin working. Because of his notoriety, our extravagant annual event calls to the cravings of egos. For that alone, security and privacy are a necessity. In lieu of my usual distaste for my husband, I must give him credit for being a self-made man, for building this multi-billion-dollar company from the ground up and making the Vanderwall name something to be admired, a name that adorns me when my former was tarnished. Once I have a rough guest list, I email it to Bennett for his look-over. Walking out of the study, Clara catches my eye. She's busy unloading groceries in the kitchen when I say, "I didn't hear you come in." "Mrs. Vanderwall, hi," she says sweetly. "Your husband insisted that I come in today since he's going away on business. Is he still here?" "No, you missed him." Walking over, I step into the kitchen and start helping her put away the food. "Stop fussing over this," she playfully scolds, and I smile at her when she shoos me out of the kitchen. I never had a mom, and although Clara is an employee, she fills our home with a warmth that only a woman with a strong maternal sense can do. "Would you like me to fix you a cup of tea?" "No, thank you. I had one earlier." I take a seat at the bar as she asks, "You hungry?" Shaking my head, I say, "I think I'm going to hang around here today. Bennett wants me to start working on the ball, so I figure I'll lie around and surf the internet for ideas." "Is it that time already?" "Mm-hmm. How fast the years go by. When you get to be my age, you better not blink, ever," she says with a soft smile as she starts to pull out pans to cook. I walk over to the windows and watch as the snow falls over the city. From up here on the 71st floor, I feel like a queen. I take a moment to enjoy the view before I get to work, while Clara busies herself in the kitchen, preparing meals for the next few days. Time escapes me, and before I know it, the sky is darkening and Clara is saying goodbye. When I wake up the next morning, I take my time getting ready. I wander over to the windows, and as I'm looking down on the busy traffic in the loop on this Monday morning, I take a sip of my tea and then hear my phone ring. I see it's Bennett and answer. "Hey, honey," I say as I walk over to the sofa and take a seat. "Hi. I tried calling when I landed yesterday." "Sorry, I went to bed early." "That taxing of a day, huh?" he jokes with light laughter. "Yeah, something like that. Must be this constant snow we're having. Makes me lazy," I tell him. "So how is everything going?" "Good. Just met with our new client and had a late lunch. I'm heading back to the hotel now to grab a shower before I have to wine and dine these bastards later tonight at dinner. But I wanted to catch you because I missed hearing your voice last night." "You missed my voice, huh?" "I missed more than your voice," he flirts. Letting out a deep breath, I tell him, "I miss having you in bed with me. I'm always lonely without you here. This place is too quiet and too still." "Didn't Clara stop by yesterday?" he asks. "She did. You know, you don't have to mollycoddle me. I'm a big girl." "I like to. What did you call it? Mollycoddle?" I can hear the chuckle in his voice when he says this, and I play right back in laughter, saying, "Yes, mollycoddle. For such a worldly man, you should broaden your vocabulary." "Is that so? Well, maybe when I get back I should show you just how expansive my vocabulary is." I laugh. If there's one thing Bennett is not, it's a dirty talker. But I give him a flirtatious, maybe you should come home early. I wish. Although I am enjoying the warmer temperatures here. It's nice and sunny. If you're trying to make me jealous, it won't work. You know I love the cold and gray. Gives me a reason to cuddle up to your warmth every night. So what kept you warm last night? Stuffing my stomach full of Clara's baked ziti and then huddling down deep in the blankets. Well, I'll be home soon enough to keep you warm, hun, he says in a smooth voice before asking, "So what's on your agenda today?" I was going to give the hotel a call to see if I can set up a meeting to look over the space again. We were just there. Yeah, but now I want to see it empty, without all of Chicago's upper crust loitering in it. He laughs at me and then says, "Sweetheart, don't you forget that you are as upper crust as they get." "And I only have you to thank for that, darling," I tease. "But seriously, I want to see what the space looks like empty, and talk to management to find out if they have any new leads on vendors. I'd like to step out of the norm from what we've done the past couple of years. As long as it has your hand in it, it will be amazing. Everything you touch turns to perfection. Just look at me." Perfection, huh? Well, I can't argue with that ego of yours. I wouldn't change a thing about you. "And I you," he compliments before saying, "The car just pulled up to the hotel, so I need to let you go." "Okay. Try not to work too hard. I miss you." "Miss you too, love. Have a good day." We hang up and I let out a deep breath. Talking to him like that used to be difficult in the beginning, but now it's as natural as wanting to wipe dog shit off your shoe. I walk into my closet to pull out the clutch I took to the party the other night. Opening it, I take out the business card that Declan gave me and walk back out to the living room to make the call. "Lotus," a woman's voice purrs. "Declan McKinnon, is he available?" "And who shall I say is calling?" "Nina Vanderwall." She puts me on hold for a moment, and when the line is picked up, she tells me, "Mr. McKinnon is finishing up a meeting. Would you like me to take a message?" "Well, I don't want to disturb his schedule, but I will be organizing an event and would like to come see the main ballroom space and discuss vendors." "Of course. Let me direct you over to our manager," she says before transferring me. After a brief chat with the hotel manager, we set up a meeting an hour from now. Hanging up the phone, I call Baldwin to have the car ready to drive me over to the hotel. When he arrives, I'm ready as he helps me slip my coat on over my ivory silk top that's tucked into my tailored black wool pants. "Are you ready?" Baldwin asks as I grab my purse. "Ready." We ride down the elevator, and as we walk through the lobby, the car has already been pulled around out front. "Watch your step," Baldwin says as I maneuver around the small ice patches in my high heels. When I arrive at Lotus, I walk in and am greeted by the manager, who is waiting for me. He leads me into the ballroom, and I take note of the space. The main seating area will easily accommodate the event, and there is an attached lounge that houses various cigars and liquors that are displayed around the dark mahogany room. The bar is broad and masculine, and the woodwork is quite impressive. It's a shame all this was hidden beneath the sea of people that was here at the grand opening. The setting is an intimate one, despite the vast size of the room. The dance floor is situated down a small flight of stairs, setting it off from the dining room, creating a less hectic atmosphere for entertaining. A familiar accent catches me off guard as I'm walking around and taking notes in my memo book. "How does she look?" His brogue casts through the room, and when I turn to catch his eye, I ask, "Excuse me?" Scanning the space, he clarifies, "The space, I mean. Looks different empty, doesn't it?" Turning my head to admire the decor, I say, "Yes, I was just thinking about how much detail I failed to see the other night with all the people here." He walks over to me, looking polished in his slacks and fitted button-up, sans suit jacket and tie, with a slight grin on his face, and reaches out for my hand and finally greets, "It's good to see you again, Nina." The way my name is caressed by his accent is without a doubt sexy as hell. As he brushes his lips over my knuckles, the stubble along his jaw grazing over the soft skin of my hand, I don't respond, but when he keeps his hold a beat too long, I pull away. His smirk remains, as if amused by my reaction. He casually turns to the man that was showing me around and dismisses him. Turning back to me, he shoves his hands into the pockets of his slacks and asks, "So, what do you think?" "I think my husband was right. It's the perfect place to host the party." "Great. Did you need to look around any more?" "I think I've gotten my fill for the moment." He seems humored by something, maybe me, and pulls his hands out of his pockets, placing one on my back as he leads me out of the room.
Let's go to my office and discuss the details, then.
We make our way into his office, and I stand in the center of the oversized room as he walks over to his desk, moving with a relaxed confidence, and grabs the laptop. He nods his head towards the leather couch, saying,
"Please, have a seat."
I situate myself and open my planner, flipping through the pages to find my calendar, when I feel his eyes on me. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I ask when I look up at him, feigning my annoyance.
"Where does one even buy a paper planner anymore?" he teases.
"Lots of places."
"I haven't seen one of those in years. You do know they make these things called tablets now."
Smiling at his banter, I say, "Yes, every now and then I'm able to crawl out from under my rock to keep up to speed with modern technology, thank you." He shakes his head and laughs as I watch his smile reach his green eyes and crinkle at the corners.
"Do you even own one?"
he asks, still smirking at me. "No." He doesn't respond, but his unfaltering look pulls out my answer to his unspoken why. "I like privacy. Technology disrupts that. I can burn paper and throw the ashes away as if it never existed. Untraceable." Giving the sly grin back to him, I add, "But you? Don't you think it's foolish that you're putting yourself out there, to be exposed?"
"Is this a riddle?"
I laugh, ignoring his question as I flip through my calendar and confirm, "You have December 31st open, correct?" Sighing, he shifts and looks at his laptop, saying,
"Yes."
"Great. Bennett likes to keep this event small, 200 or so. Security is important to him."
"You as well,"
he interrupts, and I soften my face, smile, and say, "Yes, me as well. As I was saying, guests will need to check in, so will your staff provide that amenity?"
"Anything you want."
We spend the next hour discussing ideas for setup and scheduling meetings with a few vendors for the next couple of weeks before I call to have Baldwin pick me up. Declan's well-bred manners sway to the salacious side with the way he kisses me when I leave, gripping my upper arms in his hands and dragging his lips along my cheek before pressing his lips on the shell of my ear, whispering,
"Until next time."
Chapter 3. Present. Declan called me 2 days ago to confirm my meeting with the florist. He recommended the company located in Andersonville that his hotel uses to outfit the lobby, so I agreed. After discussing the masked ball theme with Bennett this morning, he gave me the green light, which made me happy. I can tell he misses me from our phone call. He wasn't quick to hang up. But he'll be returning from Dubai tomorrow evening. Despite his loneliness, he was happy to have acquired the production plant that he set out to buy from the nearly bankrupt company over there. The drive to Andersonville takes longer than usual with the weather. Winters in Chicago are brutal to the city, but a brutality that I enjoy. So as I ride in the back seat, I find myself watching the white snow hit the window and slowly melt to a drizzling cascade down the glass. Arriving at Marguerite Gardens, I walk into the rustic shop. Brick walls, weathered wooden floors, extravagant floral arrangements set atop the agrarian tables, and him. Standing there in charcoal slacks and a light blue button-up, he turns away from the woman he's speaking with and smiles as I walk over to him. Miffed. "What are you doing here?"
"You made it,"
Declan announces quietly with what looks like irritation and drops a scant kiss to my hand when he takes it. "I didn't know you'd be joining me."
"I promised your husband I would oversee everything to ensure you get exactly what you want. So here I am," he states, and then lowers his voice, "ensuring you get exactly what you want."
"Why do you do that?"
"Do what?"
"That," I say. "Your crass flirting."
"Do I make you uncomfortable?"
Are you trying to make me uncomfortable? Completely ignoring my question, he turns around and calls out,
Betty, show us what you have.
The lady he was talking to when I walked in is now situated behind one of the tables. Declan pulls a chair out for me, and as I take a seat, Betty greets me and says, So I was informed that we are planning a New Year's Eve party. Do you already have an idea of what you'd like? I believe we are firm on a masquerade theme. I was leaning towards dark oranges and whites. Betty and I go through a couple of books, taking notes on flowers and arrangement styles, while Declan remains quiet in the seat next to me. At the end of our meeting, we decide on various arrangements of rusty orange dahlias, mint and buttercup roses, antique hydrangeas, ranunculus, and aspidistra. After Betty excuses herself to leave Declan and me, I pull out my phone to text for the car, but before I can start typing, he snatches it out of my hands and says,
I'm starving.
Good to know, I snap, annoyed, and grab for my phone at the same time he pulls it away and out of reach. Give me my phone.
Have lunch with me.
No, thank you, I say, making a mockery of my politeness. Taking my hand and pulling me out of my seat as he stands, he says,
It wasn't a question.
His words come out clipped, almost angry, so I don't give him attitude when he picks up my coat and helps me put it on. I'm not sure what to think about this shift in his demeanor. Normally he's light and flirty, but today he's quiet and stern. The frigid wind nearly stings my skin when he leads me outside and walks us over to his black Mercedes sports car. Of course he would drive a luxury car like this. It fits the mysterious, sexy look about him. I slip down into the cold leather seat and watch as he walks around the front of the car before he opens his door and gets in. Where are we going? I ask.
Not telling.
He says this with no interpretable body language as he pulls out of the parking lot. Why?
Because you argue too much.
Feeling like a scolded child with his tone, I want to defy him just to piss him off, but instead, I'll play his game. I'll give him the cooperation he wants. It's time to start testing the waters. The drive is short and quiet, and I'm surprised when he turns this luxury car into the lot at the Over Easy Cafe. I can't even hide the smile on my face at the contrast of this picture as he parks in front of the modest diner.
Is something funny about this?
He asks when he shuts the car off. Shooting my narrowed eyes at him, I say, Your mood is really starting to scathe me. I don't know why you're so pissy, but I wish you'd just cut the shit, before opening my door and walking towards the building. When I look back, he's standing there with an almost proud grin on his face. What the hell? I can't figure out what this guy wants, sass or obedience. Once inside, the place is busy with busboys clearing tables and people chatting loudly while eating. We are quickly served with coffee, and when I pick up the menu, Declan finally speaks, saying,
I figured you hadn't eaten in a place like this in a while, so I thought I would take you somewhere low-key. Don't worry, you'll like the food. Order the blueberry crunch pancakes.
His eyes are soft, as well as his voice when he says this, and I ask, Why are you suddenly being nice?
I'm cutting the shit. Take it while it lasts, because I'm not a man who likes to take orders.
And now I read him clearly. With a smile, I give him a sliver of obedience when I say, I'll have the blueberry crunch pancakes, then. After our waitress stops by to take our order and fantasize about riding Declan's cock, she giggles as she walks away. Do you get that a lot? I ask. Women feeding your ego as you watch them blush in your presence?
You always dissect everything like that?
You always avoid questions like that? Leaning his forearms on the table, he says,
No more than you do.
You realize, unless we're discussing business, we talk in circles, right?
Okay then, no circles. Ask me a question.
He prompts and then takes a sip of his coffee, waiting with curious eyes. Emerald ones rimmed with his dark lashes. I can't blame our waitress for her reaction. I wonder how many women go home after meeting him to fuck their fingers or a vibrator before their pitiful husbands return from work. Cleaning my thoughts, I ask the most innocent question I can think of, even though I already know the answer. Where are you from?
That's your question,
he laughs, and then when I glare at him, he swallows it and says,
Edinburgh.
Scotland?
Do you know of another?
Smartass. I thought you were cutting the shit and being nice, I say as I lean back and pick up my coffee mug.
Momentary slip. My turn. How long have you been married?
A little over 3 years.
How long have you been together?
4 years, and that was 2 questions, I lightly nag.
I'm not good at following rules either, he says,
and then continues before giving me a chance to speak.
Sounds like a speedy path to the altar.
What can I say? When Bennett wants something, he wastes no time in claiming it. When our waitress returns, I watch as she nervously makes eyes with Declan while she serves our food. I laugh and he takes notice, shaking his head. See what I mean? I ask after she walks off.
Does that bother you?
Why would it bother me? I question and pick up my fork to cut a piece of my pancake.
Then why even mention it?
Circles, Declan. We're doing it again, I say, and then take a bite of the granola-filled pancake as he watches.
Okay, no circles. You have any kids?
No.
Do you want kids?
I can't have kids, so it doesn't really matter what I want. He takes a pause, not expecting that answer, and then asks, Why can't you have kids? That's none of your business, I tell him, and then take another sip of coffee.
Do you love him?
Swallowing hard, I clarify. My husband?
Yes.
He takes a bite of his eggs as I straighten my back and look him dead on. Your assumption that there could be a possibility of more than one answer is offensive. I notice the slight upward turn of the corner of his mouth, and he holds his stare for a beat before saying, Funny how you chose not to answer that question, but instead avoid. Of course I love him. Lie.
So he's it?
I hesitate, making sure he takes notice, and respond with a simple, Yes, careful to ensure a slight tremble in my voice. He catches my subtleties as he keeps his eyes pinned on me and I shift, playing uncomfortable, and I'm certain he buys it when he changes the subject. We spend the rest of our meal in idle chit-chat about nothing in particular, and as we leave and walk towards his car, my foot hits a patch of ice, unsteadying my balance. Declan's hands are on me fast as I shuffle and land my back against the side of his car. He's close, chest to chest. Foggy vapors escaping us with each breath. I don't speak or move away. I wonder if he's going to make a play, because I can tell he's thinking about it. But putting thoughts into action takes balls, and I'm hoping he has them. In a low voice, he urges, Push me away, Nina, as if he's testing me. But I'm the one doing the testing. He just doesn't know it. So I respond with, Why?
Because you love your husband.
Pushing my hands against him, I move him away from me as I say, annoyed, I do love him. As if no exchange was just made, he opens the door for me to get in. When we pull onto the main street, he asks,
Where do you live?
Why?
Because I'm going to drive you home, he says, turning his head to look at me.
The legacy. The silence between us is noticeable, and I wonder what he's thinking about, but I don't dare ask. He doesn't allow my thoughts to overtake me when he turns on the stereo. I can tell he's using the music to distract himself as he keeps his eyes focused on the road. I'm granted no reprieve as I consider the thoughts that are scrolling through his head right now. But this part is out of my hands because I won't push. The fall has to come of his own accord. I'm merely the fuel that feeds the vehicle. He's the one driving it, and the destination is up to him. When he pulls up to my building, he shifts the gear into park and looks over at me. He hasn't spoken for the whole drive, and he remains quiet. Wanting to calm any of the ill thoughts he may be having, I lean back against the seat and let out a sigh as I roll my head over to look at him. Our eyes are locked, his hands still on the steering wheel, and then I say in a soft voice, free from any undertones, "I had a nice time with you." Declan nods, unconvinced, so I give him a little more to coax him, adding, "I don't have many friends." When I say this, his hands drop slowly to his lap as he turns slightly toward me. He then asks, "What about those 200 people on the guest list for the event you're planning?" If it weren't for Bennett, those people wouldn't give me a second glance. I wouldn't want them to, though.
Why not?
Because they're nothing like me.
How so?
Lowering my head to focus on my hands, I don't respond immediately.
Tell me, Nina.
My eyes meet his when I say, with a faint shake of my head, "I guess I'm still trying to figure that out."
And your husband?
He questions. He doesn't know this. He thinks I enjoy the lunch dates with the wives when I really loathe them.
Then why even bother?
Letting go of a deep breath, I say, "Because I want to make my husband happy." He leans over, closer to me, resting his arm on the center console, and asks,
"And what about you, Nina? Who wants to make you happy?"
"Bennett makes me happy," I state, while his eyes search my face for hints of dishonesty, and I make sure to let a few slip through, drifting eye contact for a quick second with a couple rapid blinks, nodding my head as if trying to convince myself of the words, giving him a small, feeble smile. I know he buys it when he says with a gentle voice, "Liar." He's confident in his accusation when I don't deny it, instead lowering my head and then turning to look out the windshield. "I should go." Looking over at him, he gives a nod before I open the door and step out. Walking to the lobby doors, he calls out,
"Nina."
When I turn around, he's rolled down the passenger window and gives me back my earlier words.
"I had a nice time with you, too."
I reward him with a smile before walking away. When I get inside, I drop my purse and coat on the dining room table and call Baldwin to let him know I got a ride home with Declan and that I won't be needing him for the rest of the evening. I then walk over to inspect the kitchen and notice there is fresh fruit in the fridge that wasn't here this morning, letting me know that Clara has already been here and left. Knowing there won't be anyone else coming or going, I waste no time pulling my coat back on and grabbing the keys to one of the cars before picking up my purse and heading back out. When I pull out of the parking garage, I make my way to I-55 and start heading south to the one person who has always been there for me. It's been a few weeks since I last saw Pike, and I miss him. I allow the excitement of finally being able to see him, my best friend since I was 8 years old. I pull off the interstate and into the town of Justice before turning on to 79th and heading to the trailer park. When I pull up to the mobile home, I park the car and take out the key I hide in the lipstick case in my purse. The bass of someone's car stereo rattles the windows, and when I unlock the door and step inside, I relax my shoulders, sigh, and walk straight into Pike's arms. I take his warmth, comfort, and everything else only he can offer as he holds me. With my arms wrapped around him tightly, I breathe, "I've missed you."
"It's been nearly 3 weeks,
he says as he pulls back to look at me, and when he does, I can see he isn't happy.
"Where the fuck have you been, Elizabeth?"
Chapter 4. Past.
"Elizabeth,"
my daddy calls from outside my bedroom door.
"Do you need help?"
I struggle against the glittery fabric of my princess dress, trying to find the opening of the sleeve to push my arm through. "No, Daddy," I call out in a heavy breath as I twist and wriggle my arm, finally finding the opening.
"Are you ready?"
I walk over to my toy box and pull out the pink plastic heels that match my sparkly dress. Putting them on, I walk over to my door and open it. I look up at my daddy, holding a small bunch of pink daisies.
"I never get tired of seeing that beautiful smile,"
he says, before taking my hand and kissing the top of it. He then hands me the flowers.
For my princess.
Thanks, Prince.
May I come into your castle?
He asks, and I grab his hand, pulling him into my bedroom, our pretend castle for the afternoon. Would you like some tea? I ask as we walk towards my table by the window that my tea set is on.
I would love some. My travel from the kingdom was quite long.
I watch him sit down on the small chair and giggle as his knees hit his chest. Daddy and I do this often, have our fairy tale tea parties. I don't have a mommy or any brothers and sisters to play with, but that's okay because I get to have him all to myself. He has the prettiest blue eyes, but he tells me mine are prettier. Setting down the flowers, I pick up the tea kettle and pretend to pour him a cup while he eyes the plastic pastries, swirling his finger above them as he decides on the one that he wants. Daddy, just pick one. His eyebrows shoot up in excitement when his hand lands on the yellow cupcake with sprinkles.
Ah, this one looks delicious,
he says before taking his make-believe bite and then licking his fingers. I scrunch up my face, squealing, Ew, princes don't lick their fingers.
They don't?
No, they use napkins. He looks around and says,
Well, I don't have a napkin, and I don't want to waste the icing on my fingers.
I exaggerate thinking, tapping my finger on my cheek, and then agree. You're right. Okay, you can lick your fingers. We sit in the sunlight of my room and have our fairy tale tea, talking about the flying horses we'll ride to the magical forest.
Did I tell you about Carnegie, the caterpillar I met? He asks.
You met a caterpillar?
The last time I took my steed to the forest, I did. He had some berries he shared with me, and then told me a secret, he says quietly as he sets down his teacup.
What? I exclaim excitedly. You met a talking caterpillar?
I did. Do you want to know what he told me?
Mm-hmm, I hum, nodding my head energetically.
Well then, he told me he had been living in the magical forest for years, but that he was once a prince.
Really? What happened? He folds his arms over the tops of his knees and leans his chest against them, saying in a secret whisper,
The kingdom's sorcerer cast a spell on him, turning him into a caterpillar.
Oh, no, I gasp. Why?
Turns out, the king was upset because he told Carnegie to stop sneaking out of his room at night and stealing juice boxes from the fridge, so he had the sorcerer use his magic to turn him into a caterpillar.
Daddy! He has a playful smile on his face. I know he's teasing me since he's been getting on to me about waking up and drinking juice boxes at night. Last night he scared me when he turned on the kitchen light and caught me drinking an apple juice. You're not going to cast a spell on me, are you? I don't want to be a caterpillar.
Why not? I could introduce you to Carnegie.
But I would miss you, I pout. He reaches out his arms for me.
Come here, baby doll,
he says as he turns in the small chair and stretches out his legs. Hoisting me up on his lap, he wraps his big arms around me and makes me giggle when he kisses the top of my nose.
I'd never cast a spell on you and send you away. You're my little girl, you know that?
I thought I was a big girl now that I'm 5.
No matter how big you get, you'll always be my little girl. I love you more than anything.
Anything? Even more than chocolate? I watch him laugh. Big smile, lines at the corners of his eyes.
Even more than chocolate.
I place my hand on his cheek, prickly with his stubble, and tell him, I love you more than chocolate, too. He pecks his lips to mine, and then asks,
You want to know what's sweeter than chocolate?
Uh-huh. Before I can leap off his lap, he starts playfully attacking my neck, tickling me as he blows raspberries and then plops us on the floor as I roll around, laughing and squealing. He doesn't stop until the doorbell rings. As I try and catch my breath from all the laughing, he sits up on his knees and orders, Hop on. I get off the floor and jump on his back, taking a piggyback ride all the way to the front door. You've heard the saying, beware of what lies on the other side, right? Neither of us could have possibly imagined how our lives would be forever changed when he opened that door. I used to wish that someone would cast a spell on me, forever changing me into a caterpillar. I could have had a good life, living in the mythical forest with Carnegie, spending our days searching for berries and floating aimlessly on the lily pads in the pond. But instead, I was about to find out the hard truth of life at the age of 5. The truth they keep from you as a small child, allowing you to believe that the fairy tales are real. But they aren't, and neither is magic. "Cook County PD!" is all I hear as men come charging into the house. Chaos, loud chaos. "Daddy!" I scream, scared, panicked, clinging my arms around his neck like a vice when a man grabs for me. "Daddy!" "It's okay, baby," I hear my dad say as another man is talking at the same time. "You're under arrest." I don't know what those words mean as ice-cold fear runs through me, fisting my daddy's shirt in my hands, unwilling to let go of him. "It's okay, baby. It's going to be okay," he keeps repeating, but his voice is different, and I think he's scared too. "You need to come with me," the man who's grabbing me says. "No, let go!" I begin kicking my legs when I'm pried off my daddy's back, stretching his shirt because I have my hands clamped so tightly to the fabric as I'm being pulled away. I see my daddy's eyes, blue eyes, as he turns to look at me. "It's okay," he says calmly, but I don't believe him. "Don't be scared. It's okay." "No, Daddy!" I cry out as the tears fall. I hold onto his shirt until I am pulled so far back it pops out of my hands. The moment I am no longer touching the man that sings to me at night, that puts my hair in pigtails, that dances with me while I stand on top of his feet, I'm whisked away. I see my prince drop to his knees as I watch over the man's shoulder who's carrying me away. "Daddy!" I shriek, throat burning, as they clamp my daddy's hands together behind his back with something. His eyes stay on me, never once pausing as he says over and over, "I love you, baby. I love you so much, baby girl." And for the first time ever, I see my daddy cry before the door closes on him and he's gone. "Let me go! Daddy! No!" Kicking and swinging, I can't escape this man's hold on me. "It's okay. Calm down, kiddo," he says. But I won't. I want my daddy. The man sits down on my father's bed with me still in his arms, fighting. He continues to coax me to calm me down, but my screaming and thrashing don't falter until I grow tired. My body is limp as I'm crumpled against his chest. "Can you tell me your name?" he asks. I don't speak. A moment passes and then he says, "I'm Officer Harp. Michael Harp. I'm a policeman. You know what that is, don't you?" I nod my head against his chest. "Can you tell me your name?" Still scared, my voice cracks when I tell him, "Elizabeth." "Elizabeth? That's a nice name," he says. "I have a daughter whose middle name is Elizabeth. She's much older than you are, though." He continues to talk, but I don't pay attention to what he's saying. I'm so scared and all I want is my daddy. I close my eyes. I can see him on his knees crying. He was scared just like me. After a while, the door opens and I lift my head to see a chubby woman walking in. I think I've seen her before, but I can't remember where. As she gets closer, she says, "Your red hair is beautiful. Has anyone ever told you that?" "Where's my daddy?" "That's what I am here to talk to you about," she tells me. "Would you like to join me in the kitchen? We can get a snack or something to drink." Oh, okay," I mumble as the policeman sets me on the floor. When I follow the two of them out of the bedroom and into the kitchen, I look through the house to the front door, but nobody's there anymore. "Why don't we have a seat?" the woman says, and I walk over to the table and sit down. "Do you want something to drink?" I nod my head, and she prompts, "Can you tell me what you want?" "Juice box." Looking over at the policeman, he opens the door to the pantry, and I say, "They're in the fridge." He walks over, pops the straw in, and sets it in front of me before he leaves the room. Confusing day, huh? she says as she folds her hands together on top of the table. What's your name? Barbara, she answers, but it doesn't help me remember how I know her. When's my daddy coming back? She takes in a deep breath and then tells me, That's what I'd like to talk to you about. Your father broke some pretty big rules, and just like when you break a rule, what normally happens? I get in trouble. She nods her head and continues, Well, your father is in trouble, and he won't be able to come home right now. What did he do? I'm not quite sure just yet, but for now, you're going to come with me. I work for the Department of Children and Family Services, which means I'm going to find you a home with really nice people that you will stay with while your father is in trouble and can't be here with you, okay? But I don't want to leave. Unfortunately, I can't let you stay here alone, but you can bring some of your things with you. How does that sound? She says this with a smile, but it doesn't help the churning of my stomach. Quietly, I slip off of the chair and start walking to my room. I go over to the tea set that's on the table and pick up the pink daisies, my princess flowers. I sit down in the chair that he was sitting in and look over my shoulder to see Barbara walking into the room. Do you have a bag? I point to the closet and watch as she starts going through my dresser, packing up my clothes. She roams around, going back and forth between my bedroom and the bathroom as I clutch the flowers to my chest. You ready to go? She asks when she steps back into the room, but I don't want to look at her because I don't want to go. Staring out the window and up into the blue sky, I ask, When can I come back? I'm not sure, she responds. Probably not for a while. Out of the corner of my eye, I see her move across the room and kneel down beside me. As I turn to look at her, she says, Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. She looks down at the daisies. Those are pretty flowers. Do you want to bring them with you? Leaving the house, we walk out to her car and I hop into the back seat. As I look out the window, I watch the policeman shut the front door to my house and lock some sort of black box onto the door handle. What's that? I ask Barbara, who's sitting up front. What's what, dear? That thing he put on the door. She looks over to see what I'm talking about and responds, It's just a lock since we don't have the keys, and then starts driving away while I hold tightly to my flowers. Chapter 5. Past. It's been 3 years since I was taken away from my home and placed in foster care. 3 years since I've seen my dad. I was told he was trafficking guns to South America. I still don't understand everything, but then again, I'm just an 8-year-old kid, a ward of the state of Illinois. 3 years, and I miss my dad every day. No one will take me to go see him since he's over 6 hours away, serving his 9-year sentence in Menard Prison. I sit in my room and wait on my caseworker, Barbara, to come pick me up to take me to my new home. 3 years, and I'm leaving my 5th home to go to my 6th. The first place I went was in the same town of Northbrook, where I'd lived. But after getting caught sneaking out of my bedroom window a few times during the night, they said they couldn't manage me, and so I left. The same thing has happened at each home I've lived in. At first I was scared. I cried a lot. I missed my dad and would scream for him, but he never came. I didn't understand then, but I do now. I'm not going to get to see him until he gets out. I'll be 14 years old. 14 is my new lucky number. I count everything in groups of 14 just to remind myself that the time will come when I can see him again, and we can go back to our life together in our nice house in our nice neighborhood. I miss his smile and the way he smelled. I can't explain it, but sometimes when I'd be at preschool, I can faintly remember lifting my shirt to inhale his scent when I was missing him. The smell of my dad. Comfort. Home. When I hear the doorbell ring, I know it's time. I've been through several home switches before. You'd think I'd be scared, but I'm used to it now. So I grab my bags and head out to the front door. Barbara is standing there talking to Molly, the foster mom that doesn't want to deal with me anymore. They both turn as I approach and say hi. "You ready, Elizabeth?" Barbara asks. Nodding my head, I walk past Molly as she places her hand on my shoulder, saying, "Wait." She kneels down to give me a hug, but I don't return it. I'm sad, but I don't cry. I just want to leave, so when she lets go, that's what I do. While I sit in the passenger seat, watching the buildings pass by as Barbara drives, she turns down the radio and says, "Talk to me, kid." I hate when she calls me kid, like I'm not special enough for her to use my name. She only uses it when there are other people around, but alone, I'm kid. "What do you mean?" I ask. "I've found 5 good homes for you, and you've managed to get kicked out of every one of them. You keep me busy, you know that?" I'm not sure if she really wants a response, so I stay quiet before she adds, "You can't keep sneaking out at night. What the hell are you doing out on the streets in the middle of the night anyway?" "Nothing," I mutter just to say something to appease her. Truth is, I started sneaking out to see if I could find Carnegie. Sounds stupid now, but when I was 5, I thought he'd be there, waiting for me to find him. So I would sneak out and walk around, hoping to stumble upon that magical forest. It never happened, and now I'm old enough to know fairy tales aren't real. But I still sneak out and look for the forest anyway. "Well, listen, I couldn't find a home to place you in around here, so you're going to be in a different town. You're not going to be seeing me anymore since I don't live there. I'm still going to handle your case, but Lucia will be your contact. She should be doing a visit with you later this week. But a piece of advice: stop causing issues or the next stop will be a group home." "So I won't see you again?" She looks over at me, saying, "Probably not, kid." We've been in the car for almost 2 hours when we finally exit the highway. "Welcome to Posen," Barbara says, and it isn't but a couple minutes later when she pulls into a run-down neighborhood. Chain-link fences run alongside the cracked sidewalks. The homes are old and small, unlike the large brick house I lived in with my dad. Most of these homes have cars parked on their unkempt lawns, chipped paint, and everything about what I'm seeing brings on a well of tears. My stomach knots, and I turn to Barbara, saying, "I don't think I want to live here, Barb." "Should have thought about that when I told you to stop sneaking out at night." "I promise I won't do it again. I'll say sorry to Molly," I beg, and when she pulls into the drive of a dirty, old 2-story house that looks like it's barely standing, I start crying. "Please, I don't want to live here. I want to go home." She turns the car off and looks over at me. I feel like I'd do just about anything to convince her to turn the car around and take me back to Northbrook. "I'm in a bind. You're 8 years old with an unstable home history. Now, this family has been fostering for years. They are currently fostering a boy a few years older than you," she tells me. "I talked to them just the other day. You'll have your very own room and will go to the same school as their other foster kid." I keep my mouth shut and listen. I don't want to be here. I want to run. Just open this car door and run as fast as I can. I wonder if she'd be able to catch me. "You listening?" she asks and refocuses my attention back to her. I nod my head. "Come on, I've got a long drive back," she says as she gets out of the car and opens the back door to grab my bags. With a shaking hand, I open the door and follow her along the weathered driveway to the steps leading up to the front door. The rusted screen door squeaks loudly as she opens it and knocks a few times. I stand there, picking at my nails, praying to God that no one opens the door, that this is all a big mistake and we're at the wrong house. But it isn't a mistake, and someone does answer the door. A woman dressed in a homely, long denim skirt and a light purple sweater opens the door. I stare at her as Barbara starts to talk. The woman doesn't look scary, but I still feel like bolting. She looks down at me and gives me a soft smile. Her ratty ponytail is attempting to tame her long, brown, frizzy hair. Stepping aside, she invites us in, and the place smells like stale cigarette smoke. While she leads us through the small living room and back to the kitchen, the two of them continue to talk as I take everything in. Wood-paneled walls, brown carpet, mismatched furniture, and ducks everywhere. Everywhere. Ducks on pillows, wooden ducks, ceramic ducks, glass ducks. They line the bookshelves, cover the tables, and when I look up, they are even on top of the kitchen cabinets. Elizabeth? It takes me a second to realize that Barbara is saying my name, and when I look over at her, she gives me one of her fake smiles and says, "Mrs. Garrison says that your bedroom is upstairs." "I hope you like purple," the woman says to me as I look at her purple top and then back up to her face when she says, "You're the first girl we've gotten, so I got a little carried away." Barbara gives me an annoyed look, nodding her head to encourage me to talk. "Yeah," I finally say. "Purple is nice." She smiles and lays her hand over mine. I want to snatch it away, but I don't. I don't do anything that my mind is screaming I should. I just sit. "Well then, why don't I help you up with your bags before I go?" Barbara says. The three of us walk up the stairs as they creak beneath our feet and into the purple room. The walls match Mrs. Garrison's sweater, and I watch as she shows me the closet and then the Jack and Jill bathroom that adjoins to the other bedroom. "This seems like a great room, huh?" Barbara says when she plops my bags down on top of the purple twin bed. "Mm-hmm." "Well, I have to get back on the road," she tells me, and when she does, I feel the tears hit my cheeks. Suddenly, I've never felt more alone, empty. "There's no need to cry. You're going to be fine. I know that change can be hard, but you'll be okay. Like I said, Lucia will be out to meet you in a few days, okay?" "Okay." It's an auto response because I'm far from okay. With a light pat on my shoulder, Barbara leaves me behind, standing in the purple room with Duck Lady. "Would you like me to help you unpack, dear?" she asks. "I'll do it." "Are you hungry? I could fix you a sandwich." I look up at her through the remaining tears in my eyes and nod my head. "Great. We normally always eat at the kitchen table, but I'll bring it up to you if you'd like." "Okay," I say as I start unzipping my bags. "Elizabeth," she calls from the hall, right outside the bedroom. "I hope you'll like it here. Carl, my husband, worked hard painting this room for you. He's out running a couple errands, but should be home shortly." When I don't respond, she excuses herself and heads downstairs, leaving me alone to unpack. Next to the bed is a small window that looks out over the front of the house. All the houses are the same, aside from the various colors of paint. Everything looks decayed here. I take my time putting my clothes away and eventually eat the peanut butter sandwich that Bobby brought me. She told me to call her that rather than Mrs. Garrison. Aside from a small dresser, desk, and bulletin board, the room is pretty bare. When I walk into the bathroom, the sink counter is already occupied with the other kids' stuff. I wonder if he's like me, how old he is, and if he's nice. I feel like I need a friend more than ever right now. I'm so far from home and so alone. A loud rumbling from outside calls my attention, and I walk over to look out the window. An old, gray, beat-up pickup truck pulls into the driveway. I watch as an older, fat guy gets out of the driver's seat and starts walking towards the house. Then the boy gets out, but I can't see what he looks like under his baseball cap. I stay in my room and listen as they walk in, talk to each other, and then I hear the creaking of the stairs. Bobby is the first one I see, followed by her husband. "Elizabeth, how's the unpacking going?" she asks. "Good," I say as I look at the man. He's got a big belly, stains on his shirt, and long, messy hair. "That's good. This is Carl, my husband," she introduces. "Elizabeth, is it?" he asks. Nod. "You settling in all right?" Nod. "You don't talk much, do ya?" Feeling like I need to say something, I mumble, "I'm just tired." "Well, I'll leave you be then," he says. "Glad to have you here." Bobby smiles as Carl walks out, and after she asks me how I'm doing and if I need anything, I lie and assure her that I'm fine. She closes the door behind her, and as soon as she does, I see the light from the other bedroom flick on through the bathroom. I watch, and when I see the boy with the baseball cap, he turns to look at me. "Hi," he says as he stands on his end of the bathroom. "Hi." Taking off his cap, he tosses it on his bed and runs his hand through his sweaty, dark brown, nearly black hair. He then walks through the bathroom and into my room, looking around. "This color is sickening," he says, giving me my first real smile in a long time. "I lied," I tell him. "I told her I like purple, but I don't." "You been in the system long?" 3 years. 9 for me. I just got here a couple weeks ago." "Are they nice?" I ask. He takes a seat on the bed next to me, and he smells like cigarette smoke and soap. "Bobby hasn't been here much. She just got back in town from some crafting show she did." "Crafting show?" "Yeah, she makes wooden duck figurines and crap to sell at fairs, flea markets, and shit. So she's gone a lot. Carl works at the auto mechanic shop down the road." He pauses and then adds, "He drinks a lot." I don't say anything, and we sit in silence for a moment before he asks, "How old are you?" 8. You? 11. Almost 12. Name? Elizabeth. You scared, Elizabeth? Looking over at him, I pull my knees to my chest, wrap my arms around them, and nod, whispering, "Yeah." "It'll be okay. Promise." I watch as a hint of a smile crosses his face, and something about it tells me that I can believe him. "I'm Pike, by the way." Chapter 6. Present. "Where the fuck have you been, Elizabeth?" "I'm sorry," I say as Pike loosens his hold on me. "I haven't been able to get away, but I'm here now." Pike takes a step back, raking one hand through his thick, choppy, dark hair, and releases a rough breath through his nose. "Pike, come on. Don't make me regret coming here. I only have tonight before Bennett comes back home." "I'm just sick of living in this shithole while you're living your precious life in that fucking penthouse. It's been over 3 years." He bites and then falls back onto the couch. Looking down at him, I try to soothe his irritation. "I know. I'm sorry. But you knew it would be like this. You knew this wouldn't work if we moved fast." "Are you even working at it at all, Elizabeth? Because from where I'm standing, it seems you've gotten quite comfortable in your new life." "Don't be a dick, Pike," I say, raising my voice at him. "You know me better than that. You know I hate that asshole with everything I am." He leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees with his head dropped. Walking over to him, I sit down on the couch and start rubbing his hardened shoulder, muscles tense out of frustration. "I'm sorry," he quietly says, and sits back, pulling me with him and holding me. I need the contact, need his touch. I always have, so I linger in it for a moment with my arm slung around his waist. I hate being away from him, but I know he hates it more. I don't blame him. This is the shittiest place he's lived, but he's paying the owner of this trailer under the table to keep himself off the grid. He's still hustling to get by, and here I am, lying in his arms wearing a goddamned Hermes coat that probably costs more than this crap hole he lives in. "It's okay," I assure him. "I'm sorry you're stuck here, but it won't be forever." "I'm beginning to wonder if it will." I swing my legs across his lap so that he can cradle me to his chest, and when I get comfortable in this new position, I tell him, "I met someone." "Yeah?" "Yeah. I think he's interested." "You said that about the others. What makes you think this one is different?" he questions. "I don't know that he is, but it's worth a shot, right?" He doesn't respond, and when I tilt my head back up to look at him, he locks eyes with me. "I'm not giving up," I say. "I need you to know that. I'll do whatever it takes to get us that new beginning." He kisses me, slipping his hand behind my head to hold me close. The familiar taste of his clove cigarettes comforts me the way a blanket would a child. He's my comfort. I've depended on him ever since I was a little girl. He's protected me as an 8-year-old child and continues to, even though I'm now a 28-year-old woman. The rough warmth of his tongue slides along mine, slowly, as he pulls back, ending our kiss.
So, who's the unfortunate bastard?
His name is Declan McKinnon. Bennett and I were at an event of his when I first met him.
What kind of event? He asks.
It was the opening of his hotel. He had a showy party with all the right names in attendance, I tell him. I don't know much about him, but I do know that his father is a developer and has a long string of high-end hotels behind his name. I'm not sure how many Declan has his hands in, but that one for sure.
He seems too high profile,
he says as he shifts me off his lap and heads to the kitchen.
Beer?
Yeah. He pops the caps, then hands me a bottle when he sits back down next to me. I know he's not the ideal choice, and I wasn't even going to mess with him, but he's working with me on an event, and we're spending a lot of time together. I don't know. I take a sip of my beer, and then add, time will only tell, but I can already see the intrigue. But I just met him, so I'm still trying to figure him out.
And what do you think so far?
I think he's the type of guy who likes to have control, but at the same time he seems amused when I get snarky with him. I already planted the seed that I'm a person that might need to be saved. I laugh at the memory of being in his car just a couple hours ago. I'm pretty sure he bought right into it, stupid fool.
Has he touched you yet?
He clips. No, Pike. I've known the guy for a week. You know I don't work that way. Men like to chase, so I'm going to make him chase until he can't resist.
You think he could possibly fall for you?
I'm hoping he does, I tell him.
I do too. I'm sick of living like this, babe. You have no idea,
he says as he clutches my face in his hands and looks me over.
Knowing that fuck has his hands on you.
I don't feel it.
Don't lie to me.
I'm not, I say, but I am. I try so hard not to feel Bennett's hands on me. I work at staving off any orgasm with him, and I hate myself when my body isn't strong enough to fight it, and he makes me come. It happens every now and then, and the bile that rises is a burning reminder of the weakness that still lives inside of me. A weakness I continue to try to kill off, but Pike would be pissed if he knew. So I lie, allowing him to believe that only he has that part of me. The part his eyes are telling me he wants right now.
Tell me you hate him, Elizabeth.
He grits as he crawls on top of me, pushing my back down on the couch. I hate him. With a near growl, he crashes his mouth to mine, and the beer slips out of my hand, clanking against the floor. His tongue invades my mouth. Hands grab locks of my hair, body pressing hard against mine. He takes over me, grinding his hard dick between my legs as I start fiddling with the buttons on his jeans. Once undone, I shove them down, past his hips, and he yanks mine down as well. We move quickly and carelessly. He sits back and jerks the pants off one of my legs.
Show me your tits,
he demands, looking down at me. I pull my top off and unclasp my bra, tossing it aside, and his rough hands are on them quick. He then takes his cock and pulls off a couple hard pumps while he twists one of my nipples between his fingers, sending a shockwave straight to my belly.
You want me to take it away?
Yes, I breathe.
Say it. Tell me that you need me to take it away.
He continues his torturous attack on my nipple before releasing and moving to the other. Pike knows I need him to numb. He's always allowed me to use him like this, to numb the pain, numb the past, numb the present. Fucking Pike is my personal narcotic, and I'm long overdue for a hit. The words are near agony when I give him what he loves to hear. You're the only one who can make it go away, Pike. He lowers his head, sucking the abused bud into his mouth. Oh, God, Pike, fuck me. Just do it, I beg. He quickly rips his shirt off, revealing the ink splayed across his chest and arms, before shoving my panties to the side and thrusting himself inside me. A volatile transgression as the sounds of our flesh slapping together fill the room. I grab his ass, urging him harder, and he gives it, pounding into me. Closing my eyes, I drift away to where nothing exists but the pleasure that builds inside. His carnal grunts heat my ear with his breath as he buries his head in the crook of my neck. We fuck filthy, like animals. The denim of his jeans that are shoved below his ass chafes the back of my thighs. While we grind ourselves into each other, my butt off the couch as I meet his thrusts with my own. Greedy. He grabs my hips as he sits back on his knees, bringing my pussy up to him while he starts slamming into me at a brutal pace. "Fuck, Pike," I pant as I reach both my arms over my head and grip the arm of the couch. The swell of his dick inside of me as he gets close causes an eruption of fire, singeing its way through my veins as he makes me come. I go rigid, tensing up to get the most out of the orgasm, grinding my clit against his pelvis. A few seconds later, he crashes into me and stills, letting go of a guttural hiss as he shoots his tranquilizing disease inside of me. Collapsing his sweaty chest on top of mine, our labored breaths are heavy, and I'm pacified. For as long as I keep my eyes closed, so I don't have to see the best friend that I just used, I'm okay. Pike gives me a sick power that I crave. The power to take control, if even for a moment, using him to clean me of the rot that contaminates me, and he gets off on being the one who can do that. To be the only person who can take it away, making my body a tomb. But now, as he slips his softening dick out from inside me, his warm cum running between my thighs when I sit up, I'm bathed in degradation, and he knows it. It's always the same. He pulls me into his arms as he sits back after tugging his pants up. With his hand rubbing my back, I swallow hard as I attempt to control the feelings of shame. "Why do you still feel this way?" he asks, knowing me all too well. I don't respond. He's used to my silence after we have sex. What could I say that he doesn't already know? The thing is, I know Pike loves me in a way I don't share. He's my brother and my best friend, but to him, I'm more. He's never come right out and said it, but I know it anyway. It doesn't stop him from fucking other girls, but I know he needs it. Pike has a thing for sex. He likes a lot of it. More than the average person, I would assume. It's never bothered me, since I don't view sex much differently than one would toilet paper, using it to wipe away the shit stain of life, and when you feel clean, you flush it and walk away. "You don't need to feel like this. I don't care that you use me in this way. I love you, so you can have it. If it makes you feel better, then just take it," he says. "I'd rather you let me do this for you than allowing someone else." His words make it even worse, so I pull back and shift to slide my leg back into my pants. He watches as I grab the rest of my clothes and walk to the bathroom. After I clean myself up and put my clothes back on, I walk out to see Pike wiping up the beer I spilled all over the floor. "Sorry," I say as I stand there, and when he walks past me to throw away the wad of paper towels, he responds, "I don't care about the beer." "I'm sorry for more than just the beer," I tell him. "I wish I could give you more money." "I knew what I was signing up for. We both did. It's too risky, so just ignore my bullshit," he says, as he walks back to the couch and motions for me to sit next to him. He pulls out a cigarette and lights it, taking in a long drag and then adding, "I just missed you," as the smoke drifts out of his mouth, forming a vaporous cloud in front of his face. "When will you be able to get back here again?" "More often after the new year. Bennett has a busy travel schedule, and I'm sure it's going to be even busier now." "Why's that?" "He just bought another production plant earlier this week in Dubai, so I imagine he'll be going back to oversee the new outfit on the place and get it up and running," I explain. "That's good for us." He laughs, and I join him. "My thoughts exactly. I say through a thick smile that I let wane when I ask, "How have you been?"
"You know how it is. Nothing has changed for me," he tells me.
Pike has always found a way to skate by, pulling small cons and such. But he makes most of his money selling drugs. I used to as well. When we got out of the system, we lived with one of his friends that Pike worked for, dealing drugs. Pike was the middleman, putting himself on the street to sell product, and made a decent amount of money doing so. You need anything?
For you to get your head on straight with this one.
I've got my head on straight, Pike. I hate when he talks to me like that. Like I don't know what the hell I'm doing when I'm the one pulling the biggest con here. Putting his skills in the sewer. My focus has never wavered, but I need you to trust me. I know what I'm doing.
Just be careful. Hands clean, remember?
I nod and then grab the remote to turn on the TV. We spend the next few hours hanging out like we used to, but before it gets too late, I know I have to leave and head back into the city. With the holidays coming up, don't get mad if I can't get away, okay? I'll try, but until January it'll be hard.
I get it. Don't do anything stupid trying to come see me,
he says as we stand up and walk to the door. I grab my coat and slip it on, then turn to give him a long hug. It's hard to leave him, knowing he's here in the shithole. He's the only family I have, and to not have any contact with him is scary for me, since I know how easily family can be taken away. So with my cheek pressed to his chest, I take in his scent and hold on to it while he runs the fingers from both of his hands through my hair and down to my face. Cupping my jaw, he angles me to look up at him. His brown eyes are intense when he asks,
"Hard as steel?"
"Yeah," I breathe. He taught me at an early age how to live without emotions, how to wrap that steel cage around my heart, always telling me that no one can ever hurt you if you can't feel. So I don't. Outside of Pike, there's no one I'll give that to because emotions are what make people weak, and I can't afford to make that slip. The heart is a weapon, a self-inflicting weapon, that if not trained properly, can destroy a person. Chapter 7. Present. I watch as Bennett moves around the bedroom, getting dressed in his three-piece suit to go into the office for the day. He arrived late a couple nights ago, and as I presumed, his schedule is now packed with travel after the purchase he just made. Even though he's home now, he's been living at the office before he heads out again at the end of this week. The chill in the air is getting to me, and I sink down into the bed and further under the covers.
"Do you need me to adjust the thermostat?"
Bennett asks me as he nears my side of the bed. "Are you not cold?" He sits on the mattress beside me, leans down to kiss my nose, and then smiles. "What?" I ask as he pulls away.
"Your nose is cold. Come here."
I sit up, and he wraps me in his arms in an attempt to warm me up. Slipping my arms around his waist, under his suit coat, I curl into him. "I missed this," I breathe. "Having you here with me."
"I know, I missed it too,"
he says, moving back to look into my eyes.
"You can always come with me, you know. You don't have to be alone."
"I know, but Declan has already scheduled appointments out with vendors for the party. I'll be busy for the next few weeks."
"How did your visit with the florist go the other day?"
he asks. Running my hand along his silk tie, I tell him, "It went well. I think we got nearly everything picked out."
"Good."
He combs his fingers through my hair and leans in to kiss me, slow and soft, taking his time. Bennett tends to be overly affectionate after he returns from a trip, and I never deny him, so I shift up to my knees and hold his face in my hands. When he grips my hips, clutching onto the satin of my slip gown, I take over his mouth, urging him on. He pulls me down atop his lap, and his growing cock presses against me as I grind my hips into him. "God, baby, I can't get enough of you," he mumbles against my neck, between his gentle kisses. "You want me?"
"I always want you,"
he tells me.
"But you're gonna make me late. I've got a meeting."
Grinning at him, I say, "I'll be fast," before slipping off his lap and onto my knees on the floor beside the bed. Quickly working my hands, I undo his slacks and yank them down, and as he sits on the edge of the bed, I wrap my lips around his dick and suck him off while he moans my name. Once fully satisfied, he kisses me deeply when I walk him to the door before he leaves. I hate that I have to leave when all I want is to make love to you all day. The ringing of my cell interrupts us, and he waits while I grab it off the kitchen counter and answer. "Hello?"
"Nina, it's Declan."
"Hi."
"I was wondering if you could stop by the hotel later today. Betty from Marguerite Gardens is having a few arrangements delivered for you to look at," he says.
Sure. That shouldn't be a problem at all. What time would be good?"
"This should be delivered by noon."
"Okay, I'll swing by later then," I tell him before we hang up.
"Who was that?"
Bennett asks when I walk back over to him. "Declan. The florist is sending over some sample arrangements for me to look at later today, so I'll just take one of the cars to the hotel if Baldwin is going to be with you."
"You sure?"
Lifting up on my toes, I give him a little kiss. "I'm sure."
"I'll call you when I leave the office. How about I take you out for a nice dinner at Everest tonight?"
"Sounds perfect," I say with a smile. He runs his thumb down my lips and then gives my chin a little pinch, saying,
"Have a good day, okay?"
"You too." As soon as he leaves, I walk into the kitchen to put the kettle on the stove, and while I wait for it to boil, I look over to the dining room table. The extravagant vase of purple roses that Bennett gave me when he got home last night sits in the center of the table. The sight causes a physical reaction inside of me, a twisting in my gut as I grit my teeth. I hate purple. I told him it was my favorite, though, so when he gives me flowers, his way of showering me with affection, it only reminds me of everything I hate. Purple walls flash in my mind, and it only reinforces my steel wall. Bennett is everything a husband should be, so it was essential that I create fissures within him, purple flowers being one of them. The squealing whistle of the kettle snaps me out of the purple and into the present. I fix my tea and make my way into the bedroom to get ready for the day. Knowing I'm going to be seeing Declan, I want to look nice, so I set my mug down on the center island in my closet and start sorting through my clothes. Selecting a simple black shift dress, I pair it with patent black heels and my white wool knee-length coat. After a slow morning getting ready and taking a phone call from Jacqueline to schedule a lunch date with the girls, I grab my purse and head down to the parking garage. It takes a while to get to the hotel, with the hectic lunch traffic in the loop, but when I arrive, the valet takes my car and I make my way back to Declan's office. When I approach his door, I can hear his voice on the other side. He sounds angry, barking orders with whoever he must be on the phone with, because it's only Declan's voice I hear. I wait, and when I notice the conversation has ended, I give the door a couple light taps.
"Come in,"
he calls. Opening the door, his focus is on his laptop and nothing else as he's clicking away at the keyboard. "Bad time?" I question hesitantly, and when he hears my voice, he flicks his eyes my way and swivels his chair away from his computer to face me. "I can come back."
"No,"
he simply states as he stands up and walks toward me, taking me by the elbow and turning me to walk with him.
"This way."
His snippy attitude the other day at the florist was irritating, but for some reason, right now, it doesn't have that effect on me. Figuring that whoever he was just speaking to is the culprit of his mood, and not me, I follow him out of his office and down to an opulent private dining room that's currently free of people. He opens the double-etched glass doors and leads me into the dark room, dimly lit by the sparse chandeliers. Towards the back of the dining space, there is a secluded table that's covered in burnt orange and white flowers with dark, rich greenery. Some accented with spiral grapevines and others darkened with blackened moss. Declan still has a hold on my arm when we walk over to the table. I'm impressed, I say, and it's then that he releases me. When I look at him, I notice his jaw flex as he grinds his teeth. His focus is on the table and not me, so it's with a soft voice I speak. Declan? When he looks over at me, I ask, Are you sure this isn't a bad time? I can go. He relaxes his face and runs his hand behind his neck and down along his lightly stubbled jaw. Releasing a sigh, he says, Stay. Nodding my head, I turn away and take a step over to the arrangements and begin studying each one. There are 5, each ornate and exquisitely put together, the designs unique and exactly what I had in mind. I still when I feel Declan's fingers graze the sides of my neck, and as I turn my head to see him standing right behind me, he moves his hands to the collar of my coat and starts to slip it off my shoulders. Adjusting myself, I allow him to take my coat and watch as he lays it across the back of a chair. Thanks, I murmur. What do you think? Keeping my eyes on him, I don't answer immediately. I want the contact to see how he responds. It doesn't take long for a sexy grin to cross his face. They're perfect. I'm not sure how to pick one over the other. So take them all, he says. Take them all? Why not? Who says you have to choose? Isn't there always a choice? I ask with an undertone that states we're talking about more than just flowers. Not when you're a Vanderwall. With superficial offense, I say, Is that what you think? That because of my name I simply take what I want? He quirks a brow without saying anything, and I add, Is that what you do? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but the McKinnon name sure isn't one that people are not aware of. Are we talking personal or business? He questions. Business is personal when it belongs to you, and the last time I checked, it's your name that robes this hotel. He walks over to one of the other tables and takes a seat. Leaning back and resting one of his arms on the table, he says, Yes, I take what I want. I stay put, standing by the flowers, and question, In which case? In all cases. Now stop standing there and sit with me. Is this you taking? With a smile that he plays so well, he says, Are you up for grabs? No, I state curtly. And these games you tend to enjoy playing with me are getting old, and frankly I don't enjoy being toyed with as if I'm here solely for your entertainment, so again, cut the shit, Declan. I grab my coat and start walking towards the door, hoping he makes the move I'm goading him into. His hand grips the top of mine as soon as it hits the door handle, and I freeze, keeping my head down. Don't go, he says, and I remain silent as he continues to speak. You're not a toy, Nina, and I apologize if I made you feel that way. So what is this? This is me, simply wanting to get to know you, he says, and when I look at him, he adds, You say you don't have friends, right? Turning my head away from him to avoid eye contact, he says, Everyone deserves a friend, Nina, even you. And you think you're going to fill that void? I ask, looking back at him. What makes you think I need that? Tell me then, who do you talk to about the things you can't with your husband? I pull my hand out from under his and move to face him. Who do you talk to? Silence. You expect me to just put myself out there when I don't know anything about you? And what do you give me in return, huh? I question. The same, he answers. So let's start now. Before you knocked on my door a few minutes ago, I was on the phone with my father. It was being a fucking knob as always, ridiculing me for decisions I'm making that he doesn't have a say in, and it drives him crazy to not hold the power in this situation. So there you go. My father's a bastard to me. His eyes are sharp as he says this, the intensity prevalent, and I feel like I just made progress, but I don't want him pissed right now, so I break the tension and make him smile when I tease. A fucking knob? Is this some Scottish insult you guys throw around? Because I've never heard anyone call someone a knob before.
Yeah, darling, it is. But if you prefer something more authentic, I can call him a fanny ball bag. But then to the random American, I'd probably just sound like a pussy. I laugh at his statement, but let it fall off my lips as I look down at my feet and quiet myself. What is it, Nina? He asks, taking note of my shift in mood. When I don't immediately respond, he takes my hand, holding it in his as he walks me over to a table and we sit down. Tell me something about you. I don't know what you're wanting. Anything. Just give me a piece, he says. But when he sees me hesitate, he offers, Tell me why you don't have any friends. I release a breath, giving him what I know he wants to hear. Because I'm not from this world. I'm not like those women, and I stall, taking a moment before adding in a hushed voice, I'm afraid they'll judge me, so I rather they just fear me because it's easier that way. When I say the words, the truth that lies within them surprises me. So you hide? I suppose. Are you lonely? Do I seem lonely? I question. In this moment, yes. Deflecting, I turn it on him, asking, And what about you? Are you lonely? I moved here from New York when we broke ground on this place. I've been so wrapped up with getting everything fit for opening, so yeah, I've become lonely. When did you leave Scotland? I ask. I used to spend my summers here in the States when I was in university back home. I'd come here and work for my father, learning the ins and outs of the business. But I didn't officially pack up and leave until after I graduated with my master's, he tells me. That was 7 years ago. Do you miss it? Scotland. With a nod of my head, he answers flatly, Yes, before asking, Where are you from? Kansas. What brought you out here? I shift in my seat, marking my discomfort with answering, but before I can speak, my cell rings from inside my purse that's lying on the table. Picking it up, I see it's Bennett, and answer the call. Bennett, hi, I say so Declan knows who I'm talking to. Just checking in. My meeting wrapped up a lot earlier than I expected, and I was hoping to see you, he says sweetly. You just saw me. So is this your way of saying you're too busy? No, I'm never too busy for you. Are you still at the office? I ask as I cast a quick glance over at Declan and see the irritation in his eyes. Good. Get jealous. Yeah. Are you hungry? I can have something delivered. That sounds great, honey, I tell him, playing up the sweetness just to pluck on Declan's nerves, and I can tell it's working by the tensed muscles in his neck and his set jaw. I'm on my way now, okay? All right. I love you. Love you too. Looking at Declan, I tell him, I have to go meet Bennett. Yeah, I heard, he says, clipping his words. I run my hand over his clenched fist that rests on the table and say, Thanks. For what? Talking to me. Staring into his eyes, I tell him again, Thank you, so he can hear the sincerity in my words. His hand relaxes under mine, and he flips it so that he's now holding mine, and with a smile says, Let me walk you out. As he helps me with my coat, I finally feel like I've found the match I've been looking for. There have been a few men before Declan, but none that ever gave me the promise I feel he may have, so I let him hold on to my hand for a moment longer than I should as he walks me out to the valet who was waiting with my car. I slip into the driver's seat, and Declan peers down, reminding me, Friday is your appointment with the caterer, 4 o'clock. I've got it on my calendar. You mean that paper calendar that doesn't provide you with notifications or reminder alerts? He teases. Laughing at his dig, I say, Yeah, that one. But apparently that's all I need, since you tend to do the reminding for me. I'll see you Friday, then. You'll see me Friday, I affirm before he closes my door, and I start driving over to the Willis Tower to meet my husband for a late lunch, all the while feeling optimistic for the first time in a long time. Chapter 8. Past.
I sit by myself on the front steps of the school, waiting for Pike to meet me so that we can go home. He's in trouble with one of his teachers again and has detention, so I take the hour to get all my tears out so that he doesn't see me cry. Apparently I've lost track of time when I hear the metal doors bang open and pop my head up to see Pike walking down the steps. Quickly, I wipe my face, but he sees the tears anyway.
"Why are you crying?"
he asks, but I don't say anything as I stand up and shrug my backpack on over my shoulders.
"Elizabeth, what happened?"
"Nothing. Can we go now?"
"No, not until you tell me why you're upset."
Hanging my head down, I kick a couple pebbles on the sidewalk, telling him, "The kids in my class make fun of me."
"What did they say?"
he asks in a hard voice. "Doesn't matter," I tell him. "I've been at this school for a few months now, long enough to hit a growth spurt and no longer fit into the clothes my last foster family bought me. So now I'm stuck wearing clothes that Bobby gets from thrift stores, and the other kids pick on me for the way I look."
"It matters to me,"
he states, and when I look up at him, I say, "They call me names? Saying I look like I get my clothes from a garbage can?" I can feel the tears fall again as I continue. "They call me names to my face and then whisper and laugh at me."
"Those kids are asswipes."
"I have no friends, Pike," I say, crying. "I'm all alone, and I want to go home. I miss my dad, and I want to go home." In a second, he has me in his arms, and I wet his shirt with my tears. Every night I pray to a God I'm not sure even exists, that I'll wake up from this nightmare, but I'm still here. I'm almost 9 years old, and I haven't seen my dad, heard his voice, felt his hugs, nothing, in nearly 4 years. I have a caseworker who has only seen me twice since I've been here, and both times I cry and beg for her to take me to my dad, but she won't. He's too far away. I'm starting to believe that I'll never get him back, because waiting until I'm 14 seems like forever.
"I'm sorry,"
Pike eventually says as we stand on the sidewalk hugging.
"But you're not alone. You have me."
He's right. He's the only one I have, but he's a 12-year-old boy, and next year he'll be at the middle school, leaving me here alone. Alone with kids that don't like me. When he draws back and looks down at me, I cringe at the greenish tint left over from the black eye Carl gave him the other day. I learned fast that when Bobby is around, Carl is semi-pleasant, but the moment she leaves, he starts drinking. I try to hide and be invisible when he drinks because he's scary to be around. He yells a lot, and if Pike and I make too much noise, he gets really mad and usually hits us. My first slap came a week after I got here. Bobby left for the weekend, and Carl was downstairs watching TV while I was upstairs. I found a radio on the top shelf of the closet in my room and was standing on a chair to get it down, but I slipped, causing the chair to tip over and the radio to crash to the floor. Carl busted through my door and saw the broken radio. Before I knew what was happening, he had yanked me up by the arm and slapped me across the face. The burning sting held to the skin of my cheek as I cried into my pillow afterward. Pike and I take our time walking home, but when we get to our street, Bobby's car is gone, and only Carl's truck is in front of the house. My stomach sinks. It's the weekend, so I'm sure it'll just be the three of us. Bobby never tells us when she's leaving, but lately it seems to be all the time. She's never home anymore.
"Just go straight to your room," Pike tells me as we walk to the front door. "I'll grab you a snack and bring it up."
Okay.
But that wouldn't happen.
Instead, I was about to be introduced to a black hole that would claim another piece of my faith in human decency.
"Where the hell have you kids been?"
Carl yells at us when we walk in, and the gravel in his voice makes me cling to Pike's arm in fear.
"I had detention. I told Elizabeth to wait for me so she wouldn't have to walk home alone," Pike explains. "You think I have all the goddamn time in the world to be wondering where you shits are?" he shouts, and then grabs Pike by his shirt, ripping him out from my hold on his arm and shoving him away from me. He then gets in my face, stinking of beer and cigarettes. "And you,"
he spits as I start to cry, which does nothing but piss him off even more.
"Fuck. Why are you always fucking crying? I'm not gonna spend another weekend here with you listening to this shit.
When he lifts his dirty shirt and starts to unbuckle his belt, the chills of fear run rampant, spiking through my veins. Pike bolts off the floor and goes after Carl, but it only takes one hit to knock Pike back, and Carl has his hand locked around my wrist as I scream and thrash. Suddenly, he has me lifted off the ground with a firm hold around my waist. "Let me go!" I scream. "Stop! Let me go!" I hear a crash, and when I look up through my tears, I see I've kicked over a couple of Bobby's ducks and have broken them.
"You little shit,"
he yells, but it's blended with Pike's screams as well, and I panic. Sheer panic. Screaming, crying, kicking, and the next thing I know I'm being shoved into the small hallway closet. Carl throws me hard against the floor and then pulls me up by my wrists, using his belt to tie me up to the lower garment bar. Everything is a chaotic blur. Everyone is yelling, and the terror in my body is making it hard for me to breathe through my shrieking cries for help. I hear Pike, and I hold on to his voice when Carl's fist smashes into my face. Slam. Lock. Darkness. "No! Let me out!" I cry. "Pike, help me! Let me out! Please!" I can hear the beating Pike is getting now. Grunting, heaving, screaming. I twist and yank my wrists, trying to free myself, but the leather is biting into my skin and I'm only hurting myself. The side of my face where he hit me pulses in beats of hot pain, and I fall onto my bottom with my arms pulled above my head and cry. I cry for what feels like years in the darkness. My body grows tired and weak, arms cold and tingly. I stand up, wedging myself between the wall and the garment rod, and I can feel the warmth flowing back through my arms to my hands. I try wriggling my fingers around to grab onto the strap of leather, but it's too dark to see anything, and my fingers are too small. What would I do anyway? Unstrap myself and walk out of here? Carl would kill me, so what's the point in trying? I listen to the faint sound of the TV in the living room as my head starts to droop. I'm so sleepy, but my arms hurt too bad when I sit and I can't keep standing up. Not sure what to do, I remain wedged against the wall while I keep jerking out of sleep when my head falls. My mind is a haze. I try resting myself in the corner, but can't find any comfortable position. Soon enough, I hear the sounds of the TV shut off and listen as Carl walks out of the room. Oh my God, he's not going to let me out. Tears fall, burning my skin on the way down my face, and I can only assume that Carl split my skin when he punched me, but nothing can stop them from falling down my cheeks. Waking up, my arms are freezing. I must have fallen, because I'm now sitting on the floor. I have no idea if it's night or day, and the urge to go to the bathroom is overwhelming. When I stand up to relieve the pain in my arms, I press my legs together to keep myself from peeing. I begin to cry, wondering what I'm supposed to do, but in that very moment, I hear Pike on the other side of the door.
"Elizabeth,"
he whispers. "Pike?" I whimper. "Shh, Carl is sleeping." Trying to choke back my cries to stay quiet, I strain my words. "Please, Pike, get me out."
"I can't," he says. "The lock on this door works from the inside."
"What?"
"Without the key, it can only be unlocked from inside," he tells me.
"He's got my hands tied. I can't move and I can't see anything," I say, beginning to panic, and he hears it.
"Don't cry, okay? I'm here," he tries assuring me.
My body begins to twitch as I clamp my legs tighter. "Pike?"
"Yeah?"
"I have to pee," I tell him. "Really bad."
"Fuck,"
I hear in a muffled voice. It's then the pain and urgency take over, and I feel the warmth seep out, spreading through the fabric of my pants and trickling down my leg. Mortified, embarrassed, I slip to the floor and begin weeping as quietly as I can.
"Are you okay?"
he asks, but I don't answer. I just continue to cry. Pike stayed with me on the other side of the door for hours last night, talking to me, trying to keep me company. I must have fallen asleep again because I don't remember him leaving. The TV is now on, so I know Carl is awake. My stomach has been growling, but I'm too scared to call out to him. The time passes slowly, and I try to keep myself distracted by daydreaming, pretending I'm anywhere but here. I imagine I'm with my father, and we're riding together on his white steed he used to tell me he had when we would play make-believe. We ride through the countryside and find ourselves in that magical forest. Carnegie is there, and we go hunting for berries. Some berries give us special powers, and some are just delicious to eat. When rain falls, we hunt for mushroom tops to hide under until the storm passes, and we meet fairy butterflies that fill the air with glitter as they fly. My thoughts get interrupted often with the pain that surges through my hands and arms. I'm so tired, but can't find a way to get any real sleep, and now with my stomach knotting up from hunger, I find myself constantly shifting from sitting to standing. Elizabeth. Pike's voice brings me out of a light sleep, and I try to bend and flex my wrists as the leather cuts into my skin. What time is it? I ask. It's Saturday night, almost midnight, he tells me. I'm hungry. Hold on. I move to my feet to soothe my arms. I feel so gross with my pants soaked in my own pee. It stinks, and I know Carl is going to be pissed whenever he decides to let me out, which hopefully will be tomorrow, since I have school on Monday. Plus, Bobby should be coming home soon. At least I hope she is. I hear Pike sliding something under the door. I lower to my knees, but didn't think this through because my hands are bound. Pike, I can't get whatever you slipped under the door. Shit, I'm sorry, I didn't even think, he whispers. Is there any way you can lean your head down to get it with your mouth? No, the bar is too high. Use your foot and try to push it back out, he instructs. I don't want Carl to know I was trying to sneak you food. I shuffle my foot around, but can't feel anything, so I just start sliding it against the floor and towards the door, hoping by chance I get it out. After a second, I hear, got it. What was it? Just a tortilla, he says. I heard Carl talking to Bobby. She's going to be home tomorrow afternoon. I feel sick. What's going on? I'm just so tired and hungry, I tell him. My arms hurt really bad. He's got his belt pulled so tight around my wrists. He's a sick fuck. Pike? Yeah. Please don't leave me. You're all I have. The tears return, and I let them come without fighting it. I feel so hopeless. I'm not leaving you. You're my sister. We're not blood, but you're my sister. His words hit my heart, knowing he's all the family I have. Did I ever tell you about the time I fell off the roof at my last foster home? No. I sit back down and listen as Pike tells me story after story. He even tells me about his mom, that she was a drug addict, and that's how he wound up in foster care when he was only 2 years old. Hours pass, and he never stops talking to me, keeping me company until I drift off into a fit of restless sleep. When I hear someone messing with the door handle, I swiftly move to my feet, wedging against the wall. Light pierces my eyes, and I immediately close them. What the fuck is that smell? Carl snarls, as I slowly try to open my eyes against the stabbing light. His hands start undoing the belt around my wrists. You'd think I'd be happy to be getting out of this closet, but I'm so tired that all I feel is numb. Did you piss yourself? He asks with anger, and when I nod my head, he yells, You better clean this shit up. The belt is finally off, and my hands are free. I grip my one wrist in my hand and stand there, scared to move, until he tells me to get out. Before I can go upstairs, he makes me clean the floor where I had been going to the bathroom. I finally look at my wrists to see they're covered in blood from the broken skin where the leather was cutting into me. When I get upstairs, Pike is sitting on my bed, but I'm too embarrassed, so I ignore him and go straight to the bathroom, shutting the door and stripping out of my soiled clothes. Before I get into the shower, I look in the mirror to see the black eye Carl gave me. I step into the spray of water and fall apart. After I finish my shower, I wrap up in a towel and go back into my room. Pike is still on my bed, so I grab some clothes and go back to the bathroom to get dressed. Coming out, I finally look at the bruises on his face as he reaches his hand out. I walk over to the bed, take it, and let him pull me down and hold me. I stay in his arms, the only comfort I feel life has to offer me right now, and close my eyes. I was locked in that closet for 2 days with nothing but Pike, who snuck down each night to talk to me through the door so that I wouldn't be alone. Knowing that he would do that for me makes me want to hug him harder, so I do. "Thank you," I mumble against his chest.
"What for?"
"Staying with me at night."
"Like I said, no matter what, you're my sister," he says,
and I respond with, "And you're my brother."
Chapter 9. Present. Bennett leaves today to go back to Dubai to start an overhaul on the production plant, gutting it and replacing everything with the same equipment that is used at the other plant he has here in the States. When I told him that I was meeting with the caterers today, he had his assistant call and hold his plane so he could go with me. The idea of having him and Declan in the same room causes my nerves to go a bit haywire, especially when I just saw Declan for coffee yesterday. He continues to press me about Bennett, and I'm confident with my performance as he seems to be under the assumption I'm not all that happy and that I'm only keeping up the facade for the sake of appearance. But I don't want there to be any awkward exchanges today when we meet up with him at his hotel, so this is where it turns tricky. I'd like to keep both men apart from each other, so the added fact that Bennett is linked with